Hey everyone, it's Susan Pierce Thompson and welcome to the weekly vlog. I am in sunny, gorgeous Colorado. I'm actually on Sunshine Mesa, which is where I used to come as a kid every summer to spend my time here with the peacocks and the horses and the dogs and the cats and the chickens and the rabbits and the grasshoppers, and it's just lovely to be here again. I haven't been here in over 20 years. And thank you to Sheila and David Torkelson for putting us up. I'm here with my husband and my 3 little kids, and we're on a road trip across the country and super excited to be here. And on today's vlog, I wanted to address 2 questions that were sent in. One by someone named Hannah, and Hannah wrote in with a link to a podcast, This American Life. And she said simply, I'd love to hear your take on this on a vlog. And so I listened to the podcast, and what it was about was a woman being interviewed who was a self-proclaimed fat woman who decided to come out to her friends and her family as fat, in the same way that someone who's gay might choose to come out to their friends and family as gay. And the conversation went on that, you know, if you're fat, everyone knows that you're fat, but people might expect you to be trying to do something about that. And if you come out to them as sort of a permanently fat person who's not going to be trying to do anything about it, you can sort of stake a claim that you're going for a path of acceptance as opposed to a path of trying to change. And that's what the podcast was about. Now, the other question was written in by someone named Georgia. Now, one of my lifelong best friends is named Georgia. It wasn't that Georgia, different Georgia. But a woman named Georgia wrote in and said, Susan, do I have to be slender to be happy and free? Why do I have to be thin to be at peace? So I thought that would be a good topic to address today here on Sunshine Mesa, which actually, ironically, I came here as a kid when I was thin. Last time I was thin, other than doing methamphetamines as a teenager and doing bright line eating as an adult, the last time I was thin was when I was a little kid. And so anyway, I thought I'd share my thoughts about this. You know, it's interesting on that podcast, the woman who was coming out as fat, what she said was that for her whole life, she felt like the most horrible thing that could happen to her in her whole life would be to stay fat for her whole life and never find a solution for that. And she tried over and over again to find a solution, and finally came to the conclusion that there was no solution and that she was likely to remain fat for the rest of her life. And so she embarked on a plan of acceptance about that. And I guess what I want to say about that is I relate to that. I did the same thing. I remember in my mid to late 20s, probably around the time that I crossed from overweight into obesity, I also made that decision that weight loss wasn't working for me and that I'd better just decide to be happy and to love myself and to accept my size. And I meant it. I wasn't playing around. Like, I decided to go the route of acceptance. And what happened for me was that it didn't work. It didn't work for 2 reasons. The first was what I'll call health, although, to be honest, at that point I didn't have any, well, I want to say I didn't have any health concerns, but actually I did. I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, which was messing with my reproductive system, and that was definitely weight related. But the other thing I'll call health, I guess it's health, I couldn't easily tie my shoes. And you know, when you're in your mid to late 20s struggling to tie your shoes, boy, that was hard to continue to accept day in and day out. And then the other thing that didn't work about that for me was what I'll call like self-actualization, or sort of inner congruence. You know, I tried to convince myself that I was happy and accepting myself as a fat person, and on the inside it wasn't true. That was the problem. It wasn't true. It was a layer that I was trying to put on top of myself, but deep down I knew that I wasn't in a body I was comfortable with, and it wasn't society's judgment coming at me that was the issue. It was my own comfort level in my own skin, and not in a not in a vain kind of, I want to fit into some external template of what people think I should be, but like literally inside my own skin, I did not feel comfortable. I was not comfortable living as an overweight person. And so I guess, what I want to say about that is that there really is this very strong fat acceptance movement in our society, which I understand, because I really think that no one should experience discrimination or judgment or recrimination for anybody based on any of their attributes or characteristics. I really believe that. And so I think that fighting against discrimination in every shape and form is incredibly important. But what I also want to say is that the argument that some people are just meant to be fat holds very little water in light of the data. So the data are that, yes, it is true that every human characteristic falls on a bell curve, and weight is no exception. So in society, some people are naturally going to be heavier than others. Some people are going to be born with a propensity for more adipose tissue than others. But the naturally occurring bell curve of that would have been seen in the 1700s or the 1800s. And what we've seen over the last 50 years, based on the foods that we're putting in our mouth and the manufactured drugs of sugar and flour that are now so prevalent in our food supply, is that that bell curve is being shifted over by the entire population, shifted up. And we now have entire swaths of the population, overweight or obese, who are not meant to be overweight or obese. This is not a natural phenomenon. This is absolutely the result of the artificial food-like substances that we're being exposed to. And the result of that, as I teach so often, is that those foods cause changes in the brain that lead to insatiable hunger and overpowering cravings. And for those of us who have brains that are really susceptible to that, we watch ourselves eat in a very unnatural way. And for me, when I was experiencing that, I knew that I was harming myself. I knew that I wasn't eating the way I ought to be eating, and I felt really out of control about it and powerless to change it. And it wasn't until Bright Line Eating that I got the tools and the education and the scientific understanding to know what to do about it. So I guess to Georgia, who's asking, do I need to be thin to be happy? My answer for that, Georgia, is only you can decide. I have no judgment about what anybody decides they want to weigh or not weigh. What I try to do at Bright Line Eating is offer finally an option, a solution, so that someone who's like me, who feels like being overweight doesn't work for them as a long-term solution, can actually have a roadmap out of that prison. If someone feels like that's not the path they want to tread, and that they want to strive for acceptance and peace and serenity at exactly the size they're at, then I think that's awesome, and I have no judgment about that. I'm not here to tell anyone that they need to be thinner than they feel comfortable being. Seriously. I'm here to help the people that are like me, who feel deep down inside that they're not living in their right body and they want to do something about it. Whether it's for health reasons or for self-actualization reasons, or just because they feel uncomfortable like I did. So those are my thoughts on that topic. And if you have something you would like me to address in the weekly vlog, go ahead and send it in. I'm at susan@brightlineeating.com. And goodbye from gorgeous, sunny Sunshine Mesa here on top of the Colorado Valley. And I'll see you next week.